She had the title, the salary, the VIP track, and then she walked away from all of it because it was good, but just good wasn't enough. And so I'm going to share this amazing case study of a client who I adore who left a Fortune 100 company to build a coaching business on her terms. Welcome back to the Best Damn Coach podcast. I love these episodes that we're about to dive into because I get to bring on one of my brilliant and inspiring clients whom I'd adore to just share their story. And through the sharing of their stories, I just feel like it inspires you guys as the listeners. You kind of see yourself inside these stories, and you get to see like all of what we're talking about here on the show is for all of us. So I am so excited to have Bree here. So welcome.
Thank you, Amanda, for having me. I'm
You're
geeking
so
out. This
welcome.
is like a
Oh,
full circle moment.
yeah, oh, well, thank you. It feels like my favorite shows for sure. And it feels like we're just sitting down having coffee or a cocktail or whatever and chatting you up and celebrating you, which I know is hard for some of us to do. And I think we'll talk a little bit about that when it comes to you specifically. But I would love for you to fully just introduce yourself, what you do now, and then I'll rewind the clock a little bit and talk about when we first met and the difference that exists compared to now. So go ahead, give us a little intro about who you are, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I'm Brianna. I founded Sophos, and Sophos exclusively functions as an HR consulting boutique firm for small and medium businesses, as well as I provide high performance coaching to us high achievers out there in the universe who are looking to set some boundaries and get clarity on their life goals.
I love it. I've learned so much just by being in your world too. And so I'm excited to unpack that with you today. So I'm like rewinding the clock. It's been a year and change by the time of this recording that we first met. And I look
Yeah.
at where you are now, and it's an entirely different world. Like you are full-time entrepreneur out on your own. And that was a stark contrast to when we met at first. And I just really remember when I think we were chatting on our discovery call or whatever the case was being, you were kind of alluding to the role you were in. And you're like, it's a dreamland. Like in the dream world, I would imagine I'd roll solo. And I'm like, in less than a year, that's your reality is to be able to leave a corporate gig that you are truly
Mhm.
an expert in, we're an expert in, transition that skill set and really to kind of multiple offerings, this consulting side of the company and also this coaching side. So everybody gets full context. Can you, for whatever degree you're comfortable, by the way, just like
Yeah.
tell us about when you and I first met, like what was your background? What were you doing?
Yeah.
And we'll go from
So when I was first introduced to Amanda and the BDC and all of the amazing things that you offer, I was in a pretty interesting space. It was late summer, early fall of 2024. And at that point, I had had a number of things that had happened in 2024 that really signaled it's time for a change. I didn't quite know what that was going to look like. I didn't quite know what level of courage was needed to even make that change, but I knew change needed to happen. I took an applied positive psychology class at the urging of one of my besties, and I was traveling 1 week a month to California. My kiddo was 8 years old at the time, eight turning nine. My husband has two full time businesses that he juggles, and I take care of my parents. And so all these things were happening, and I fit this class in. And it was really the first time I had an understanding and appreciation for the science of happiness. I know that sounds kind of cheesy and corny, but it's so critical to my story because I had never slowed down and really understand one, there is a science like an actual biological science, which I'm the eternal student. So that immediately intrigues me.
same girl, same. Yeah.
I had no idea really what gratitude was, yet I was grateful for so much in my life. And so it was just a weird array, some sad array of events that kind of needed to be my wake up call. I was getting really tired of leaving my kiddo 1 week a month. Like that was getting hard. I was missing some key events. And then for my class, I had to write my eulogy. And I wrote my eulogy, and I was really proud of it, and then I show up to class, and I'm reading it, and I'm watching everyone's face, and it's all about work. I was a young executive at a Fortune 100 company. I hit the salary requirement that I wanted to by a certain age. I had listed out all these really great things, and wife, friend, mother, daughter was like not even a sprinkle. It was like an honorable mention towards the back end. And so it was a I had realized it kind of in the middle of the presentation. And so the group really embraced that with me. Within the same week or so, I had a colleague that we had worked for years together in the trenches. He was a little bit older than me, and he always talked about his retirement and this retirement date. And he had a younger daughter, and he'd always call me kid, like, hey, kid, I'm not going to be around for that next big project. And there was a cyclical project that kind of weighed us down every few years. He's like, oh, it's going to be all you, kid. Like, I'm not going to be around. And we walked out of work together that Thursday, and he never came back that Monday. He suffered a heart attack that weekend and never came back. He never made it to that retirement date. He never got to see his 13-year-old graduate middle school and high school. And here I am. I had written my eulogy about 10 days prior. It completely bombed in my world of like, what are you doing? And now I have this colleague who had this amazing plan for his life and now is never going to get to experience it with his family. Okay. So you think those two would be enough, but no, Amanda, no, it wasn't enough. So we get to spring break. I actually miss his services because we have this big trip plan. I'm taking my daughter to London. We had never been overseas with her before. It was a really big trip. We were super excited and I had everything planned. And I'm juggling now 4 time zones while in London. London, East Coast, West Coast, and Hawaii because I had a really big portfolio and things are blowing up. And I will never forget this moment. She touched this arm and she put her little fingers on my arm and she said, Mama, you are not where you are supposed to be. Like with a little bit of sass. And I just started bawling. Just my husband did not know what to do. If you're fortunate enough to ever be in a European hotel room, it's yay big. So we're sitting on top of each other, and he's like, my wife's on the floor, hysterical crying. My kid doesn't know what to do because she didn't mean to make me cry. That wasn't the intention, right? And that was the trigger moment. And I said, I can't do this alone. I know I can't make this transition alone. And that's when I started looking for community. I was so blessed. Yours came recommended to me. I joined the SBO that fall. I was doing it while still traveling. I think I was in Italy while doing it for one of my husband's races, trying to get a sense of like, what is a small bite offer? How could I even wrap my head around charging people? Because that was still a super foreign concept, which we've come so far on. And so you were the first real community I found that acknowledged exactly where I was and what I needed, even though it was different, even though similar, but different than everyone else in the community. And your work just honored that. And that's exactly what I needed in that moment at that time.
So good. Honestly, I don't think I've really ever heard you say all those things in a story, but dang, that story is so good. That's what I would say is your conversion story. It should be on the front end of every webinar you do, by the way. This isn't a coaching session, but if I were to coach you
I
on that, I would
Well, you've
say
got some
that
good
it is.
experience there. So I'm so glad I've got
That
something
it's so
good to
good.
share.
And I think that it really, although none of us have that exact story, I think all of us have some sort of semblance of that oh, dang moment where we are like, wherever I'm at right now is not the place I'm supposed to be.
Mhm.
Wherever there is a greater vision, and that the gap between where you are and that vision, right? That's the scary leap, or the place where we start to go, like, but how do I get there? And if you're an overachiever, like you are, like I am, like probably every listener, it's like we want the path exactly clear. We want to know that I'm leaving this thing and I'm going to make exactly as much money as I did here. We want to know every detail is ironed out particularly. And I'm sure that's exactly how it's gone for you, right?
Exactly. No straight
Yep,
line,
yep.
that's for sure.
Perfect. Yeah, perfectly linear though. So
Yeah.
fast forward, I mean, the thing I also want to say, which I hope that is okay that I say. If not, we can just edit this part out. But
Yeah.
I also wanna acknowledge, like, you have formal training. You're a lawyer by training. You went to law school. You are like many of us who and not that this is apples and apples, but we've invested in our education and our learning. We're lifelong learners, and there's this piece of us, I think, that often, as we know we wanna make a transition, is still holding on to this old identity, but also like, "Did I do all this work and now I'm not gonna use it?" So
Right.
tell me, like, where your brain was and what you were thinking at that point about the next thing.
Yeah, so I am incredibly proud that I had the privilege of going to the schools that I have first in my family to go away to go to college, to go away to university. I'll never forget the day I got accepted to Cornell, I had no idea what the Ivy League is. Like that never registered to me. I got a scholarship because I was of a certain socioeconomic status. That's where you get scholarships in the Ivy League. It's not for grades because everybody's got the grades, right?
Yeah.
And they told me, you have to come the summer before or you're not allowed to attend because we're so worried your academic background in high school is weak. And that was a really, so my summer year, my summer, senior year summer,
In your summer. Mhm.
I had to spend at college. I actually had to leave before graduating high school because of how late our high schools were. So that was a huge adulting moment of an institution basically saying, we think you might be able to cut it, but we're not quite sure. So we got to like test out this. It was, I didn't realize it quite then, the impact that it was going to have on me. But that was a really interesting defining point of like, "Oh, I'm gonna prove you suckers wrong." Right? So it just like
Yeah.
it just sort of snowballed from there, and so I had this amazing opportunity to get to know the campus with like 100 kids on it. So that was
Oh,
great. And then to get to go to law school, I mean, no one in my family had gone to grad school. No one in my family had had that kind of thing, happen for them, to them, with them. And so my parents did not know how to help me. They were willing to do whatever it took to get me there, but they said, we have no direction for you. You kind of have to figure this out on your own. And so I'm incredibly proud of my lawyering background to have hung it up 1 year after practicing law in a way. So I had already had that transition because had an amazing opportunity to go from the formal law practice to a corporate HR type of role. So I've kept my law license this whole time. I'll be darned if or should I say damn, where
yes,
Ned's husband
yes.
at best damn coach. I'll be damned if I hang up that license. So I do keep it active, but I've positioned my business more from a consultancy perspective where it's law informed. I didn't necessarily wanted to take on the liability of having my own law firm and dealing with that piece. There's a pro and a con to it.
Sure.
But I'm I get so juiced and excited when I can help a business solve a problem, prevent a problem from happening. I mean, I think you've even seen me geek out when we've talked about it on the side, and I know that will always be a part of me. And that's because it started way back, and even
Yeah,
before law school.
it's so good. I think it's also surrendering to understanding. I think sometimes we try to put education in a box and just say, "We go to school, we get this degree to go do X, this thing,"
Mhm.
right? But the reality is the whole experience gives us a skill set that lends itself to being able to go do a lot of things. Like, I still feel like, I went to grad school for an education degree, and I am still a teacher. It just looks way different than the formal the formal profession that I thought I was gonna spend my entire life in, but the hours of writing curriculum, studying behavior, like all of that 100% lends itself to what I do now, and I think the same for you, right? It's just taking that skill set and being able to mold it and reposition it into an offering that maybe you didn't have the vision or the expansiveness to see quite yet.
I think the hardest part too is explaining this to my family. So the people who have watched me be the high
Get
achiever,
that.
overachiever, burnt out for decades, um, it was perfectly acceptable to leave the law firm and go to a company like Disney, right? Because it's Disney and that's so cool. And you're doing all these amazing things. So the family was like, oh, totally fine. It's better, it's not even apples to apples. But then to say you're leaving a Fortune 100 company to start your own business when you've checked all these really amazing boxes, they're like, "But why would you leave that?" And I
Yes,
and I
yes.
I like the people I worked with. Like, it's not like I was leaving a dire situation with a terrible boss. I had amazing leaders, powerhouse females, in fact. I had pretty cool work with amazing perks and all the things. So it wasn't like I was, fleeing corporate because I was burnt out in a way of people mistreating. No, it was actually, I
Yeah.
think, tougher to leave a good or great situation, but because internally your values no longer align. And then explaining that to the people around you. Now, the close ones got it. They were watching, they were like, "Okay, and we know who she is. She's got a plan. even though I think they overestimated my plan a little
Zero
bit.
chance they did. I tell you that all the time. I'm like, "Read the receipts, Bree. Of course there's
I
success
know.
for you."
But, that I think that was the tricky part of wrestling with value-wise, this no longer works, but everything else, the pay, the people, the work were actually okay. Like, they were better than okay. So that's what made it a really hard transition.
I think you're right. I think that lands for a lot of people too. It's like we have this nudge, we have this knowing. I'll just call it a knowing that like
Mhm.
where we are is beautiful and it's lovely and we love it because I very much resonate with you. It's like I loved my teenagers. I love the people I work with. But, then I had 2 kids, and to your point, like, alignment does change, like, the internal value system that I had no longer existed, and so it needed a recalibration, and I think the temptation of comfort can be really powerful in that case, like, you could have stayed comfortable, and it would have been great, like, no doubt, it would have still been good, but, like, you would have always had this lack of knowing or regret or curiosity or wondering of like, "But can I go out and do this?" And so,
Mm.
yeah, I think that that lands for so many people. Okay, so let's fast forward. You jump ship.
I jumped
I
ship.
guess it's like 5 months ago or so, 6
Not
months
even.
ago? Not
Not
even? Okay.
even.
Yeah, I guess it was at the beginning of 2026, and what I love
February.
is
Mhm.
um, we had been obviously you did your homework with your family to have these kind of conversations that I think are so important. And I want to point out it's not like you just decided to step into coaching and yes, the next day quit your job with no financial
No.
planning. And this is an area I just want to say I think is important is we all have these seasons which are challenging where when we have this vision, I do think I think it's a responsible decision to build both simultaneously while you're testing things and kind of building confidence and getting affirmation and receipts that this is a direction you could go. Because it also relieves some of the financial pressure in the beginning that I think some people are like, if you're just like, I'm all in on coaching, I'm quitting my job tomorrow, which I definitely run into people. But what happens is so many of the decisions are rooted in financial scarcity and fear. And I don't think those are the places that we should be making business decisions from. So there's this push and pull that exists, I think, on this journey that I very much remember too of like building the business, but also having this safety net and the like wondering when's the time going to be right? When's the time going to be right? And truthfully, it's just never comfortable to take that leap. But I'm wondering for you, like, what needed to happen in order for you just to say, like, okay, heck yes, I'm going for it? Like, was
A
it a
lot of
financial
things.
thing? No, like,
Definitely a
tell me more.
financial. Yeah. I I've always had, independence in my marriage, financial independence in my marriage. My husband is incredibly successful. He's running 2 businesses. We've always leaned on each other, a true partnership in every sense of the word. But I always had my own money. So if I wanted to go out and buy something for fun, I just did it and he did his thing. But if we needed, we had the joint slush. It was great. Okay. I have so much pride in that. I grew up with the scarcity mindset. My mom was raised to kind of the be barefoot and pregnant. You marry a guy who's got a decent job. There's no pressure for education. You were kids, you clean the house. And my parents got divorced at a very young age. My mom had to learn really difficult lessons very, very young and had to work incredibly hard to make ends meet, worked multiple jobs. I worked as a teenager. And so, because we had to, not because it was like a nice to have. And that always stayed with me, of being able to provide the basics for yourself. And so when I was planning this exit strategy, yes, I had lots of conversations with my husband. And a lot of it was me at first having the courage to say, are you okay with zero resentment floating this operation if I don't bring anything in? And I knew what his answer would be, but it was more about me having the courage to ask that question and not be afraid of the answer, even though I knew he was going to say yes. I knew he was because that's the partner I have in my life. He's my bestie, he's everything, but it was me having the courage. Then I changed my saving and spending habits dramatically, and I actually learned so many lessons. I wish I had done this 5 years sooner. I really did. I saved so much money. I split my paycheck 50%. and 50% I hid away in a bank account and I never saw it. And I just learned how to make all of my financial decisions up to 50%, which changed my lifestyle for the last year. Now I still have a roof over my head. Like I'm not crying poor. There's none of that. I am incredibly privileged. Again, my husband's financially secure. But me personally, I just hid 50% of my paycheck. Just hid it. And at the end of the year, I went, oh my gosh, why have I not been doing this for the last 5 years? There was so much money saved up. And when I tell you how sick I was about not having financial security, sick, it tormented my stomach. For a year, I lamented, I can't leave. I'm not going to have enough money. Oh my God, I'm not going to make any money. It made me so sick. I hit this number in that bank account and I went, if I hit that number, I'm going to leave. Now I timed it after my year-end bonus, like, I was timing it around
Yeah, you're
certain big
lucky.
financial markers. I'm not gonna leave a bonus on the table that I earned and stock that I earned, so I did, calculate that, but I hit that target, I hit those milestones, and I said, "Okay, if I don't call it right now, it's another 6 months of milestones." Like, every time you wait, you get closer to that next milestone.
Totally.
But I hit that number, and now I am transparently, I'm not bringing in I got paid weekly, which was really nice. It was really nice. I got paid weekly. I am not It's not apples to apples yet. It will be. Um, so I knew I needed to have this cushion, and I have not even thought about it. Since the moment I left, I thought this was gonna be the thing that made me sick and regrets and all the I have not thought about it. And just this morning, I was like, "Oh, I gotta transfer money over from that account. I need to pay some bills. Let me do that." And I looked at the total of what was left in that account. I went, "No, I'm great. Like, I'm still good. I've got plenty of cushion room to get to that apples." Like, so it really took a lot of planning, but more mindset work on me and getting comfortable with living life at 50%, making some tough choices, but I still have a scarcity mindset, so I still work on that. I'm still working on it, but I don't feel the pressure to make decisions now from that scarcity mindset, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's so good. Thank you for like giving some of those tangible things because I think a lot of times I've had many conversations over the years with clients who want to leave the thing. And it's like, how do you know when it's the right time? And I think there is this blend of, have some strategic planning financially so you feel good with what's in the bank and also understand that it's never going to feel perfect. It's like having kids. It's never going to be perfect. You can save all the money you want. Like there's never just perfect timing because there's always the potential to be like, oh, but just wait. Oh, but just more milestones. And then all of a sudden you just keep getting sucked back
Mhm.
in. But what I also think is coming from so you and I are opposites in some degree in that I never made a lot, you know, going into, running a business where you come from a higher earning potential. And the cool thing about both of those is that I think to some degree, what you start to do is notice that the freedom and the lifestyle that you desire. I don't want to speak for you, but I know that through discussions we've affirmed this is like actually, I don't need to. I mean, yes, we all wanna make lots of money. That's, like, part of the process, and also the freedom that comes from being able to vacation whenever you want,
Mhm.
take and pick your daughter, grab her lunch, go to a networking event, get out of the house, like, those things are the things that are missing from the previous world for you, and I know that those things begin to stack and stack for me, and the money actually becomes the second marker of success over time, which is probably a shift too.
Complete shift, which I didn't even so I don't wanna say I didn't think it would happen, but I genuinely never thought this world could be possible for me because I was the homegrown corporate kid, you know, d VP was definitely in a near future, and I'm not saying that to toot my own horn, but 15 years with the company, I was climbing the ranks, like, it's just it would have happened, right? And now I wouldn't go back. Like, it would really have to be dire straits for me to go back. Again, not because I didn't like it or love the work or whatever, but the freedom
A
the
life
choice,
yeah.
the power of choice, man, it's great. It's so
Yeah,
great.
so good. Yeah, it's so
So
good.
great.
Okay, so then let's dial in, like, let's go
Yeah.
to, like, some more strategy things because I think this is really cool to see your growth. I mean, when we first started talking, essentially, you didn't have any formal so we kind of alluded to this, but there's really 2 sides of your company. You do
Yeah.
this more consulting side where you come in with companies and help them, hopefully prevent any HR disasters from
Yep.
happening. And then you're also working B2C with clients specifically, could be owners of companies or other professionals, more in a high performance, coaching capacity. But in both these things, when I go back to the beginning, I mean, there was really no offering structure in place. There was no pricing or pricing with confidence. And so now, as I fast forward, we just did a VIP day together a couple weeks back too. And it's so cool because it may not feel this way for you yet because we're always seeking more clarity, but, like, we could draw out your ecosystem so clearly, and I'm like, Bree has, like, her offering structure pretty much clear, and she'll revise that over time. We're implementing, like, the middle of the ecosystem piece right now. You've got these amazing quizzes and assessments. You have ways that people are finding you now, LinkedIn, networking events, and just, like, relationships have been so powerful for you, but to see where you are now with a full business ecosystem, like you're a real business owner. I wonder how that feels for you, or can you just like tell us a little bit about like what you're feeling now looking back?
I don't actually, I'm stuttering just thinking about it. It's such a array of feelings. I couldn't be prouder of myself, which even though I've accomplished a lot and I'm very proud of the things I've accomplished, this is definitely by far the coolest thing I've ever done, for sure.
Yes.
I I am present with my family in a way that I didn't even know could exist. I didn't even know I wanted. So that's even scarier. And I think you'd asked me this question when we were in person of like, what's the biggest change? And I was like, I'm a better mom. And like everyone kind of like laughed at me. And it's like, no, I really am. Like, you guys don't know. It was not a good look. It wasn't good for a couple of years. And I'm not ashamed of that. It's the past. It is what it is. It took that to get me here, but I'm present in a really different way. I'm also overwhelmed because this entrepreneurial space is scary as heck. And I think that's why the right community is so important. There's always something else to learn. There's always a mistake. And I use the word mistake lightly, failure, goal. There's a learning every day. And you have to be able to kind of laugh at yourself and just bite the bullet and go with it. But it can be a little overwhelming, for sure, because there's no training manual and you just got to kind of stumble through it yourself. The community helps. Having the right mentors and guidance, like the BDC and others are great, but it's still overwhelming. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Well, I think that's truthful. And I think the wonderful part about that is settling into knowing that there is always going to be something more to learn and there is always going to be a shiny object. And hopefully through, our work together and in the BDC, there are things out there, but you're always coming home to like the main question, but like what works for Bree? And how do I take the learnings that exist and weave them into my company? Because it probably doesn't make sense for Bree to be on TikTok. It may not make sense for, Bree to go find clients at X. But what we're able to see through asking those questions and being a scientist is like, but this makes sense. And we know that this is working. And to watch you now, you know, signing 4 or 5-figure clients, 4 or and 5-figure clients, and having people renew and starting to feel confident. Like, I watch even just your pricing where you were first pricing even a year ago,
Yep.
and you probably didn't believe me at the time, and I'm like, "All right, Bree, just meet yourself where you're at, like, say the I
Yeah.
remember one of our conversations so clearly. You're like, "I knew the number I wanted to say in my head, and then I said it out loud, and I literally slashed it in half." And I was like, "We've all been there. We get that, right? It's this imposter." And now to see you on the other side of that, like,
Yeah.
confidently showing up, knowing I mean, there's just so much growth there.
Thank you.
I would love for you to also, like, maybe talk about some of the greatest learnings in business or specifically just in the BDC. What are the for you the most valuable pieces that you feel like are really nurturing you, supporting you through this process, and maybe even overcoming the overwhelm?
Oh, the BDC specifically, there's a ton of resources that span, I think, maybe not all, but most of the common potential gaps a new business owner who's going in down this path is going to face. And why I appreciated it and where it really helped me, there were so many to choose from. It was what I needed, and what I needed is different than what someone else, so they could go to a different chunk of the BDC. So it kind of meets you like where you are. um, I'm a structured girl. I thrive with structure, even though I'm living this, unstructured life. It's still very structured, right? And so the BDC provided for me the necessary structure, but fluidity to grow into the space of choice, of like, it's okay. Today, I want to work on this. And I could look for a resource in the BDC and it's likely there. I don't think there was ever a time where I didn't find a resource that I thought I needed. And or we ask you and you're like, that's a great idea. Let's create it. Right. And so that's, I think, the beauty of this community. Um, I think also reinforcing the systems that any entrepreneur needs. It doesn't matter where you are in the journey, but like getting the ledger, the QuickBooks, whatever system so and so is going to use, it's like get it and stick with it and start learning how to use it so that you're not in a world of hurt at the end of the tax year. And so that was something that my husband drilled into me. You drilled from the beginning. It's like, I don't care what you guys use, you have to use something. If it's an Excel spreadsheet, great. If it's QuickBooks, great. Whatever it is, please stick with it. And then I think where you and the BDC has helped is like, okay, now what are the other systems that could support you wherever you are in the journey? So for me, it's a CRM that's going to help me manage my very structured coaching program. And that was something I was able to find, and now I'm working on. For others, it's email funnels and marketing infrastructure because that's what they need. And so I'm learning from them going through their journey in the community. And maybe they're learning from me talking about how I'm using the CRM. And so through those trials and tribulations, we're learning from each other in a really safe space. And so that's where I have felt the structure has been, very supporting.
I love it. Yeah, and I think we underestimate sometimes the power of, because I'm constantly asking myself this. Okay, here we are in AI. Like any upcoming coach, merging coach could go into AI and ask any question that they want, right? So for all of us listening to this, any of our students or potential clients could do that, right? You're not exempt from that. Anybody listening to this podcast. So then what's the differentiator, right? And the differentiators always goes back to those three things I say: proximity, implementation, and accountability. But I mean, in some degree, like the lacing of all those things together is the community. I think we underestimate just like being in the container with someone else who has the question that you didn't know you have, or you hear it like maybe 5 weeks before you didn't know you needed it,
Needed it.
and now you're
Mhm.
able to lean into each other and then make those connections, and that's that speeding up process, right? That's like getting me there way faster than like how many hours wasted of things I would say pre-coaching, probably because I didn't really formally step into coaching till I was early 30s, but I think like in my 20s, late 20s, early 30s, of like how much faster I could have probably gotten to where I wanted to go in other places in my life had I leaned into that level of support. And I think you highlight that really well through this experience for sure. I would love to know any final thoughts, things you want to share for somebody listening that's like on the verge, thinking of going all in, or maybe in that duality of being in both.
I would say, when you're ready to pull the trigger, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I could not have pulled the trigger a moment sooner than when I did. Even though I'm loving life now and there's no going back, you really have to ask yourself the tough questions. What can I live with? What do I want? What do I need? And hold yourself accountable to that timeline. I remember telling my husband months before, okay, I think it's going to be this date in January. And he's like, okay, whatever like he was afraid to touch it. And I was like, I know, I just need to say it out loud. Like, I just need to say that date out loud to someone, but don't hold me to it just in case, and he's like, okay, I don't want, but I did. And so I would just say, give yourself grace. If you need the extra year, that's okay. If you need the extra month, that's okay. Grace is, I think, the hardest thing for us to give ourselves, and it's the thing we need the most in this process. So that's what I would say for anyone on the edge. Um, of leaving. And then if anyone was ever thinking about BDC, no BDC, Amanda, no Amanda, I would say you definitely need some aspect of Amanda in your in your life. I knew at the beginning I wasn't ready for the BDC. And that's where I think you have the perfect model, and that's why we're learning so much from you. It's you had this, it's all I could capacity wise. It wasn't a monetary, it was like my brain could only handle this aspect. And that's what my brain handled at the time. And then I grew into the FBL, and it was like it was the perfect ecosystem model that I learned from, right? And it was my own journey. And then I was in the BDC, and then I worked up to VIP days and retreats and things of that nature where when I was here at SBO land, I could have never gotten the value out of these higher level things. My brain wasn't ready to compute it. But I also can't undersell or oversell, whichever it is, the community. Like I have a dear friend, you're going to love her because you're going to meet her. She's already got coaching clients. She's making the leap in July. And I said, you need to put April of 2027 on your calendar because you're going to Gilbert, Arizona. Like I just felt like,
Right.
I was like, you're going to need this community. Don't even care about the agenda. Whatever it is, it's going to be great. You're going to benefit from it. And she's like, okay, I trust you. Right. And so that also speaks to the power of referrals and the network and the community. And what you put out there is what you get back. Right. So I would also just say for those who are on the fence of taking that next step into that higher level offer that you have, one, give yourself the grace, give yourself the right time to step into it. But when you're ready, go for it.
Oh, well, thank you for the kind words. I'm grateful that life has brought us together.
Yes. I'm so
So
grateful.
fun to watch. Yes. Tell the amazing coaches listening where they can connect with you and learn more about your work as well.
Yes. So my website is Team Sophos, Sophos. And in Greek, it means wisdom, where you can find more about my HR retainer work as well as my high performance coaching. I am on LinkedIn. It's Briana Mascaro, Mascaro, but close to mascara if you need help with some spelling there. And I'm dabbling more with Instagram at Sophos with Brianna. So you'll see a little bit more and more of me on Instagram. It's out of my comfort zone, but I'm trying. And so that's where I'm at. Thank you, Amanda, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, of course. So grateful for you. Great job.